Yeah. Yeah, they're both on shared calendar, but I mean, the point is still valid that like a whole bunch of people came to that meeting just because it was there. I mean, Adam, I think, did a good job emailing about it to the Konflux mailing list. I think it's later today. I need to go search. I think there's a Fedora infrastructure matrix chat meeting every Thursday, and I'm gonna try to start attending that and plugging this meeting and other stuff we're doing.
A related question, which matrix client would you recommend? I saw that a bunch of options.
There's a bunch of options. I use Slack on like the web interface for Slack, and so I use web interface for Matrix also. I go to chat.fedoraproject.org to get in, but it's not necessarily a great flow, you know. Yeah, the hard part is paying attention to two interfaces. They're both very interrupty and noisy driven, and that's good. I'd love it if I could consolidate it somehow. If you ever discover a way to like combine them into one, both Slack and Matrix, let me know.
Like in the past, there were clients like Pigeon. You can have like ICQ back then, IRC, and what was it?
Yeah.
The third one on J, that Jamel? No, how is it? Jabber.
Jabber, yeah.
That was the protocol, right?
Yeah. For a while, I really liked Biddleby. It was like an IRC gateway, so you could use IRC to talk to Twitter and other places. And presumably it would work with Slack too, but it's not a part of my stack anymore. What do you guys want to talk about today? I wanted to mention the Fedora infrastructure meeting. Again, I'm not sure exactly when it is. I think it's later today, but after the meeting, I'm going to go dig it up and try to find when it is and get there myself. I started a matrix channel just for Konflux just 2 days ago, earlier this week. I'll put the link in sidebar. It's in the notes too. But I was talking with somebody about trying to get Fedora boot C working, and we were like, why are we not talking about this on Matrix? And so we created a channel just to have a place to have a conversation, me and him. But now that it's there, we could all join. We could point other people there if they want to talk about Konflux and Fedora stuff. We started off saying what we were going to use this meeting. We were going to use discussion.fedoraproject.org and like tickets as like the way to talk. But like, I feel like the reality is 90% of my work happens in chat. And if I'm not upstream in chat, then we're not really an upstream. We're not available, right? There's no way to like, I feel like engage in that way that I would want to engage if I were in that position.
Alf, so like providing support for Konflux would be in that chat that you've just shared?
That's a good point. I didn't connect that, but I think that's what we should do. We had somebody come to the Red Hat engineering teams asking for support on Fedora Konflux. Let's send them to this channel instead. Yeah.
Okay.
Please join me there so you can help me so I'm not the only one providing support.
Yeah, sure. I'm logging in right now.
Thank you.
But how do we get more people to help over there? That's the question.
I was mentioning earlier, I'm gonna attend the infrastructure call next later today and plug the channel there and just talk about what we've been doing.
Maybe can we demo something? Can we show something, like make a video, and is there some mailing list that we can use to share this demo? Maybe it leads to nothing, but at least people might, I don't know, just know that there's something that exists.
Yeah. I think it'd be awesome. The Fedora boot C group is trying to get Fedora boot C building. They were stuck on our OpenShift upgrade, but that got solved now. Then the guy is on vacation, but when he's back, then maybe we can make a demo of that, send it to the devel list or discussion.fp.o. Tomasz, do you know how close we are to having a demo or something that we can share upstream about an RPM build pipeline?
Yeah, actually, I was checking the feature today. I saw that Pavel already created some tasks for himself, but no update on them. And yesterday he was not on the status meeting, so I couldn't ask him. So I will need to ping him to find out. But the design was already reviewed by Tom Kopechek, myself, and Mike. So I believe he should be ready to go. So I think it's just the capacity, because his allocation on Konflux is like, I think 20 or 40%. Otherwise, he's still working in his home team.
Okay.
Also, quick question: will you be able to connect to that Matrix channel with your fast account? Because
Yeah.
I just tried to log in there twice, and it felt both times like one cookie expired or whatever, which is weird because I just entered everything right away. And the second, it was internal server error. So I tried to log in too fast, like directly, and I can log in there, but just not with that Matrix for some reason.
I got the same.
Yeah,
I got I got an error too, but the second time it worked. But yeah, I was using that. Three is the magic number. Try a third time.
Computers.
It's like that meme. Like, even if you have correct password, the first attempt will always fail.
Okay, it worked for me on the third try. It's like I feel like I entered a time machine. Right?
Isn't that fun? Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. So simple.
It turns out there are threads and there's emoji reactions too, and like so it feels kind of Slack-esque, but none of those things feel like first-class features. It's the first-class feature is just the channel.
Okay, I've added it to my favorites. Okay, cool. And I will also paste that link. There was a question, I think, last week in our internal Slack about how to provide support for the Fedora cluster, and I will just like tell people that this is the channel. I will ask more people to join.
Cool. We should probably update our SIG markdown file too to point to the channel for people who become interested that way.
Yeah, okay, I'll send the PR.
Awesome. Thank you.
And Thomas joined the room, right?
There he is.
On the third attempt, I got 400 bad request error, but then I tried different tab, and in that tab I got like your account is being set up. So I have no idea. So fourth try for me.
Yeah.
But now I'm there.
So I think I've got 3 topics, and Gal, I think you might be the best one to answer or at least help me on all 3 of them. The first one's about this konflux.fedoraproject.org domain. If we follow the ticket through into Fedora infrastructure, I'll put it in sidebar. You guys probably see the ones in our notes. Matt DM wants to set up a nice CNAME for the Konflux instance, because right now it's this awful, OpenShift URL. And they're setting up a reverse proxy in the Fedora infrastructure side. We're going to need to make some configuration changes in our Konflux instance to support that, but I'm not sure what. Can you anticipate what some of those things are? Like the UI, like redirect link at the end of like an OpenID login flow is going to need to send the user back to that proxy instead of directly to the cluster.
Why do they need a proxy only for the DNS thing?
Only for the DNS thing. And that's maybe this is maybe this is a better point. They presented two options. They could do a redirect, like they could host a server at that URL, and when users hit it, they would be redirected to our cryptic URL. And I thought that one was bad because then everyone's just going to see the bad URL and it looks ugly. The other option they presented was a reverse proxy, which is what they do for all their other services. They run a proxy layer with the public domain name, and then that's routing traffic to the servers inside Fedora infrastructure that are serving whatever the process is. So Koji doesn't run directly on kojihub.fedoraproject.org. Instead, it runs on an internal name, and there's a proxy layer that's like serving koji.fedoraproject.org, kojihub.fedoraproject.org.
I would, I think Rosa supports adding a custom domain name for the cluster for sure. I think like it's an overkill to have a proxy in front of the cluster just for, it's another failure point.
Mhm.
Another thing that can add latency. It should be possible to add another DNS entry to support a custom name.
Okay. So if we used a custom name, we would need to do it for the clusters configuration so that like there's so many pieces. Like we need like Tecton results' API URL. Like, do we need to change the routes of all those things?
There are two load balancers when you deploy a Rosa cluster, one for the API and the other one for ingress.
Mhm.
So all applications, including the OpenShift console. Everything that you expose using a route.
Yeah.
I never did it, but I believe that what needs to be done is to add another DNS entry for those load balancers, because all the traffic goes through those. So we won't need we don't need to add a DNS entry for each service on the cluster, but
Mhm.
just for the API and the ingress controller.
That makes sense. I can go look up in OCM where to configure that. And when I find it, I can reach out to Fedora infrastructure team to suggest it as a third option. Makes
Yes,
sense.
it would be great. Yeah,
Can you
much better.
Can you anticipate what we will need to do around TLS certificates? I imagine that they're going to have the signed certificate for conflux.fedoraproject.org, and they'll need to somehow transfer it to me securely to upload there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I can do that. Can do that. Thank you. If nothing else on that one, next topic is indexes. And for Tecton results, already we have like almost no pipeline runs in the Fedora instance, but Tecton results is feeling slow. And I think everything we've done for the Red Hat instances has been applying manually database indexes to speed things up. But I don't know why I know that. I feel like I just, picked it up in a conversation somewhere. Is it true?
It's true. I've asked today to get. So I wish the Tecton results controller would make require changes to the database to make it faster, create the indexes, and do all the configurations that just makes it better. But it doesn't. So right now internally, the OpenShift pipelines team that just gives us a list of commands to run against the DB to create indexes. I've asked today to get a summary of everything that they want us to do, and we will do it. We can do it for the Fedora cluster as well. And going forward to see how they can change Tecton results to do it on its own. Like don't expect anyone to go to the database and make changes. It doesn't make sense to me. The application should own it. I think that like this work is in progress right now internally. And in addition to the changes to the database, there is also a new approach, which is called partial response or partial request, which makes the request to Tecton results much more efficient. It's this one as well is in progress, like the deployment of this feature. I think that once we get like internally, we get this issue sorted, and we know what needs to be done to like replicate the success, then we can do it in the Fedora cluster. And hopefully, like in the future, it will go like the opposite way, right? We will start with the upstream clusters, and then we will make the changes internally. But you know, we need to adjust to it.
Yeah.
Gradual change.
Yeah. We've got this maybe so to close off on that real fast, should I file a Jira issue with the Red Hat Konflux infrastructure team to request them to manage the cluster? I can do
Yes,
that
it would be great. Would be great. Yes.
long term, if we wanted to like have that exercised first in the Fedora cluster, we have there's a little bit of a mismatch where we're constantly updating with MintMaker right now, the core Konflux services, including MintMaker and multi-platform controller. But the OpenShift pipelines that we're running is based on a released channel of the OLM operator, which is behind. We upgraded the cluster the other day, and then I needed to upgrade OpenShift pipelines, but I had to do it manually, changing our subscription and install plan. And even then, we're going to be behind what we're maybe used to using for Konflux and other instances. So we might think about, can we get access to an early build similar so that we can be running closer to the bleeding edge?
Yeah, could be possible. Yeah.
My last question, Gal, from the week is about anonymous access. Mandra Ezer asked in the Konflux architecture call about getting anonymous access to workspaces. And we went and put a role binding in place that allowed a user to, that gave the view role to the system unauthenticated group. And it worked when we directly queried the API server. He could unauthenticated ask about my namespace. But we have that workspaces proxy is still in place, and it seemed to not respect that role binding.
It won't respect because the way that it works is that when using the UI, the authentication is between the client and the proxy. And then between the proxy and the cluster, there is impersonation. Okay. In OpenShift 4.18, the one that is about to get released, it would be possible to drop impersonation and like just forward the token from the user to the cluster directly. Now, it would require. Right now, the UI is just like in the case of unauthenticated request, there is no token, right? Right now, the UI, when it gets such request, well, like when it cannot determine the details of the users, it redirects the user to do the login.
Sure.
It would require a UI change. Like my question is that is anonymous access something required, or it is enough to like give you view access to people that has the Fedora account? Because like everyone can create a Fedora account, right? It's not like so.
Yeah, I think I'll say that some people, required is a strong term. Some people will really like anonymous access, because then it's just about as open as can be. It's equivalent to the experience with Koji today in Fedora project, where you don't have to log in anything. You can go and just read and curl and get data out without having to log in. Lots of people will like that. However, what you said is also true, that it's reasonable to think that we should we could apply authentication that requires, at the very least, you have a Fedora account, and maybe even more that you've signed the FPCA, the contributor agreement, or some minimum bar to get you access to the namespaces. So I think if we did that, that would be definitely a step in the right direction. It would get Andra a lot of what he wants, but I suspect that even if he doesn't ask for it, somebody else would ask for anonymous access.
Okay. It's not straightforward. Okay, it will require some work.
Okay, that's okay. That helps for now. Would you expect that running the same experiment but with the system authenticated group would work as our stack is right now? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Or we can try that just to make sure. Maybe,
Yep.
My last question in the bit of all that is that proxy layer that is accepting the user request and transforming into a token, is that still necessary even after our migration away from kubectl? It like takes the place of the registration service proxy from host operator?
No. It's over there. Maybe really like it is there in order to have like to avoid calls, to have all the requests to go to the same origin, right? Like, because when the UI when you load the website and do async requests, like get requests, not get, fetch requests, if you don't send the request to the same origin, then you need to do something which is called calls.
Yeah.
And it's like it reduces security, right? Because you log in, not log in, but you open a certain site, but the JavaScript is doing requests to other places.
Yes, I understand. Yeah.
So in order to avoid this complexity, we use a proxy, and then all the requests are going to the proxy, and it looks to the client as like the same origin, right? When the UI loads the HTTP pages in JavaScript, the same host. When it reaches Tecton results or the clusters API, it's the same host.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's one reason. The other reason is for now with the new namespace lister is for hijacking the request for listing namespaces, and let the user like show the users all the namespaces they can access, support namespace lister. And also for doing the authentication. Authentication is done server side. Like when you log in, like when you open Konflux, the UI, the JavaScript tries to like take your like to just submit a request to auth2 proxy. It's another proxy that we are running to get your user details. If it fails, it just redirects you to do the login flow. And then when you complete the login flow, auth2 proxy sets a cookie in your browser. So like the UI is not doing anything to for the authentication, for getting a token. Like if you take a look at the request, you'll see that there is some cryptic cookie, encrypted cookie that's getting sent with each request, and this is how the request is getting authenticated. So that's another part of why this proxy is needed to perform the authentication.
Okay. That helps.
Yeah, it's much more simpler than the registration service. Like it doesn't manage users. It's just Nginx.
Yeah.
There is no logic over there.
Okay. I remember the old registration proxy was performing that mapping between user requests coming in and then like a service account that represented the user in the destination namespace. Yeah, anyway, point being, it was more complicated.
Yes, yeah, for sure. It's not the same. It's not the same thing at all. It's much faster, much more lightweight.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that answers my question there. And to get back to Andra, that we can't give him unauthenticated access soon. We need work in the UI at minimum, and we need OpenShift 4.18. After that point, it's possible.
Yes. I think that yes. I think that the I don't know if the. I just want to rethink my answer. I don't know if OpenShift 4.18 is a requirement for the unauthenticated requests. I'm not sure. Like, let's say that it's not straightforward. It is possible, but we need to to think how to do it.
Yeah.
Because like up until now, it was okay just to get like view access to authenticated users. Like, the assumption was that people are going to get authenticated. People can like anyone can get an SSO account. Like, let's say that we deploy a public instance and we want to connect it with GitHub. Like, anyone can create a GitHub account and authenticate. It's not a huge request.
Yeah.
It's also good for auditing purposes, just to see like who is doing what. But maybe this is what people want to avoid, like
Exactly.
not tracking people.
Exactly. Especially in Fedora, right? There's like a
Yes.
zero contingent of people for whom that's really important, right? I get
Mhm.
that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for all the answers. I'm just looking at time. We're running out. I'm sorry. I piled on a trillion topics. Do you guys have other things you want to talk about? Any other topics? Okay. Thank you, guys. I'll see you soon in 2
Thanks.
weeks, or maybe next week if you come to the Outreach SIG.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks, bye.